Hi there, this is Rebecca with the BEDA team, and today in this video I'm going to be explaining a little bit about the immigration requirements, the student visa application process, and those background check requirements. So just all the general legalities that are included when it comes to joining the BEDA program. So let's go ahead and get into it first just with the basics. So obviously it's a student program. You would be an enrolled student with the University of Comillas. So you need to legally be able to study in Spain. Some examples would include, obviously, EU citizens don't require having a visa to legally study in Spain. So then those non-EU citizens would need to have some type of valid visa that allows for studies. Some of these examples include long-term student visa, obviously, work and residency visas, family member of an EU citizen residency visa, and freelance visa. These are just a couple examples of the most common options that we see in our students in the program. But obviously, if you're somebody that's applying to come to Spain for the first time, you don't have a visa yet, what you would be applying for is that long-term student visa, which we will get into in more detail just in a little bit. So first we'll cover EU citizens, which is just a little bit easier. So since Brexit, obviously this is now excluding the UK. So you don't need a student visa or anything like that. But if you're going to be residing in Spain for more than 3 months, which in the case of this program, obviously from September to June, you'll be meeting that 3 month, past the 3 month timeline. So you would need to be registered in Spain's Registro Central de Extranjeros, or Foreigners Central Registry. And so you need to apply for what's called the Certificado de Registro de Ciudadano de la Unión. Quite a mouthful, but it's basically, it's just the EU Citizen Registry Certificate. And your foreigner's ID number, or Número de Identidad de Extranjero, or NIE, will be specified on this certificate. It's going to be listed on this certificate. This is what it will look like. It's actually just a piece of paper. It doesn't really serve as a photo ID. Obviously, you can see there's not anywhere for a photo, but it is a requirement to residing in Spain. And we will assist you with further instructions later on. So regarding this process, so we will give you some help with this. All right. Next up, so non-EU. And so now UK citizens. So for a long-term student visa, obviously this is the required visa if you are coming to Spain for the first time and you don't belong to the EU. So you would need to apply from your corresponding Spanish consulate in your home country. You'll need to check out which one corresponds to you. It's based on where you live, so you have to take a look at that. What you'll be applying for, so like I said, is long-term, so it is more than 180 days. And you'll have the option, you'll see, to apply for single entry or multiple entries. You want to get multiple entries for sure. Okay, so that means being able to come in and out of Spain with that visa in your passport before you have your foreigner's ID card once you've arrived in Spain. So it allows for coming in and out of the country more than once. Now, this application is called it's a long-term student visa. It is not the language and culture assistant visa. You'll see that some Spanish consulates out there do have this option, but that is actually for the program with the Ministry of Education with the Spanish government. Okay, so that's not with our program. It's important to know that consulates may differ in their application requirements and the process as well. So the most certain source of information is always going to be your consulate. So directly contacting them, using their website, or if they have an email to contact to get more information, anything like that. That's who you're going to want to consult about any questions and the application requirements. So especially when it comes to background check requirements, there might be some differences. Specifically for those people applying from the United States, you'll have to be careful and see if your consulate requires an FBI background check or if they accept a state background check. Okay. And then also just for getting an appointment. So the procedure and how you book an appointment might be different from, consulate to consulate. And there might even be some consulates out there that accept applications via mail. And then maybe you have to go and pick up your visa when it's ready, things like that. So there are going to be different procedures. And so it's just best always to contact them directly. Okay. Just to give you an idea of what type of documentation will be required from you. Obviously, the application form, your passport, that has to be valid, has to be active. They might require also an additional ID, so either national or state, or it could be a driver's license, for example. They're going to require a passport size photograph to put in the visa. They will require an acceptance letter from a Spanish institution, in this case, the University of Comillas, proof of accommodation in Spain, proof of health insurance in Spain, and then, like I mentioned on the last slide, a criminal background check with proper legalization and apostille, depending on where you come from. If your country is part of the apostille of the Hague Convention, it will be required to get an apostille on that background check. And it is likely that they will ask for an official translation to Spanish. And then lastly, a medical certificate. So again, these are just some of the documentation that might be required from you. There could be additional documentation. There might be an application fee. And so, like I said, just definitely check the specific website of your consulate. Now, the University of Comillas acceptance letter is going to actually cover the following visa application requirements. So, like I mentioned, that you need the proof of, obviously, the acceptance to an official Spanish institution. That's obviously the university acceptance letter, but it also covers accommodation and the proof of health insurance. Okay, so these things you will find in your acceptance letter. When do you get the acceptance letter? This is given to you, this is sent to you after you've secured a placement in the BEDA program. So we first send acceptance letter via email, and then original physical copies will be sent out in the mail. It's important to check that all of your information is correct. Your passport number is most up to date, and your name is spelled correctly when you receive that digital acceptance letter in your email. And if any updates need to be made, you need to let us know as soon as possible so that we can get the original prepared correctly. Okay. So then, so once you book an appointment, we would ask that you inform us of when that appointment is going to be. And then, just keep us posted on every step of the way. After you have the visa appointment, you can send us a quick email saying that, everything went well. And then let us know also when the visa is approved. So once you pick up your passport with your student visa in it, we would ask that you send us a scanned copy as well. All right, so you'll find out from your consulate that there's requirements that come with the student visa when you then arrive to Spain. They're going to tell you that in the first month, you're going to need to process an ID card. Okay, so I'm going to go over a little bit about what it's like then arriving to Spain with your long-term student visa. So first, when you arrive into Spain, so if you arrive directly into Spain, you don't have any layover in any other city, that's great. Your passport will be stamped in customs, no issue. If you pass, for example, if you have a layover in another EU country, it's likely that you're going to go through customs in that country and they'll stamp your passport then. And they most likely will not be stamping your passport again in Spain. For the application process to get your ID card, you will need some proof of the stamp of arriving in the Spanish airport. So if you get this stamp done from another EU country and you don't get it in Spain, you're going to need to go to the Spanish National Police in the airport, find them, and request an arrival certificate be made for you, okay? Because you're going to need to include that in the application for your ID card. So essentially, the visa in your passport, you see that it has kind of a limit. It says 90 days in that it expires, quote unquote, expires in 90 days. It doesn't really expire, but this is because you're going to be obtaining a foreigner's ID card, and that's going to act as your visa then. So you no longer use your visa and your passport as ID when you're in Spain, but instead you use this tarjeta de identidad de extranjero, or TIE, TIE. So this is the foreigner's ID card, and it looks something like this. Okay. All right. So getting the TA, or foreigner's ID card. So we're also going to give you instructions, assistance on this process. So don't worry about that. And so all of that will come a little bit later. But to process the card, you have to give fingerprints at an immigration office. And so you're going to be giving your fingerprints, obviously, in the community, in the province, where you're going to be doing your student practicum. So if you are assigned to a school in Madrid, you're going to be giving your fingerprints at an immigration office in Madrid. There's more than one in Madrid, okay? If, for example, you are assigned to do your school practicum in Valencia, then you're going to be giving your fingerprints and doing this whole process then in Valencia, okay? So this appointment should be reserved before arriving in Spain or during the first 30 days that you arrive to Spain, okay? Like I mentioned previously, that the consulate will tell you this. Oh, you have to do this in the first month that you arrive. Okay, so it's sometimes that the first available appointment isn't until after that 30-day period has passed, and that's okay. Don't worry. Just if you have proof of having booked the appointment, having reserved it within that period, meets the legal requirement. Okay, it shows that you've done all of the necessary steps of arriving as a foreigner. Okay, so after you give your fingerprints, the card is going to be ready. It's going to be processed in about a month, so 30 to 40 days, depending on the office. They will tell you specifically at that appointment when you can go back to pick it up. You may need to book another appointment to pick it up. It depends a little bit on how that office works. Okay. And then once you get the card, you should send the BEDA team a copy of this TA card for our records. All right. So now, what about all those people out there that are applying to the BEDA program and you're already residing in Spain? Okay. So obviously, we would also love to have your application. You are also qualified to apply to the program. So here are some examples of valid visas that would qualify you to study with the BEDA program. So a work and residency visa, freelance visa, family member of the EU citizen residency visa, UK citizens who have permanent residency, or a NIE certificate that's dated before Brexit, which was December 2020. So all of these are just some examples of the valid visas that we would be able to accept and have you join with the program. Obviously, there are going to be other cases. We just are mentioning the most common when it comes to students that we've had in the past. So this visa, that whatever you have, it should be valid for the duration of the BEDA program. So from mid-September to mid-June, so that you can participate in the entire program. And so you would need to send the BEDA team a scanned copy of your valid TA card. Now, if this TA card is due to expire, it is required that you be able to apply for the renewal. You have to be eligible to renew this visa and provide the BEDA team with that proof of the renewal application having been submitted to immigration. That proof of the renewal having been submitted is what considers your visa still valid, as it's still processing. So the renewal processing will allow you also to legally participate in the program. Okay, and then in the case of those of you out there who are maybe changing language assistant programs, so for example, somebody that has had a long-term student visa linked to another language assistant program, for example, the Ministry of Education, the Spanish government program. So you have this visa linked to another program, and it is set to expire. You have to discuss this particular case with our team during the interview stage. So just mention it and make sure that it's known in your application that this is your case. But generally speaking, to give you guys an idea, you can apply for the program and follow. You would be able to follow one of these routes. Okay, you could choose. Now, you could choose to apply for the renewal of your student visa and essentially change programs and submit our paperwork with your visa renewal. And so you would be submitting the University of Comillas acceptance letter to be included with your visa application, and then essentially linking your visa then to the university. Now, the renewal application can be submitted during the 60 days before the expiration date. Okay, so anytime during that 60-day period prior to the card expiring, or it can be submitted within the 90 days after. So it can't be submitted anytime before the 60 days or anytime after those 90 days after it expired. That's kind of the legal period of time that you could submit a visa renewal application. This option, so we say there's minimal risk involved. In the majority of the cases that we've had with students changing from one program to our program in the past and doing the visa renewal, the majority of cases there hasn't been any issue with immigration, finding any problem with this changing programs and to get a visa linked to the University of Comillas. That being said, the most secure and safest option, always is going to be getting a new long-term student visa, so that it ensures that 100% it's obviously going to be linked with the University of Comillas, because that's it's a new visa altogether, and it would be then just fully linked to the University of Comillas. But as we said, the majority of cases, there's not been issue in the past. And so if you would prefer to do the visa renewal, that is an option. Okay, so just you need to know and be aware of the process. We will provide further instructions later on. And if there's any updates to the visa renewal process, we will also inform you as well. But as of this time, right now, what we know is that as long as the studies are very similar, so in the case that you're changing from one language assistant program to another, that's not going to, in most cases, that's not going to produce any issue in immigration, because the motives of why you have a student visa remain the same. You're going to be studying with a new language assistant program, and so your visa should be able to be continued. But yes, you do have obviously the option to also just directly apply for a new long-term student visa in your home country. And then you can see the instructions from the previous slide about that process. So we've covered the visa requirements. Now let's go on to those background check requirements. So all of our students every year are going to need to present something that's called the Certificado de Delitos de Naturaleza Sexual, which is obtained in Spain. This is a Spanish working with children background check. So it's related to child protection, specifically to working with minors. And it's something that each year, because it has a duration, the certificate has a duration of 1 year. So each year our students need to get this certificate. So EU citizens, excluding the UK, will need to get the Certificado de Delitos, and also one of the following. So this could be either a national criminal background check from the home country, properly legalized, translated to Spanish. Some countries do have a specific child protection background check, which would meet this requirement. So EU citizens could get this, or they could also apply for the criminal background check in Spain, because it's done at an EU level. So at that level, it would cover then any records that you might have in your home country. This is called Certificado de Antecedentes Penales, and this is something that you can do in Spain. The good thing about doing this here and getting this option is that it already is in Spanish. So, for example, you wouldn't need then to translate any background check from your home country. This would cover that requirement. So that's specifically for EU citizens. If you're a student that has Spanish nationality, then you only need the Certificado de Delitos. So just that child protection, working with minors, background check that's obtained in Spain. Okay. Now, a little bit more complicated when we get to the non-EU and UK citizens. So again, since all of our students are required to have this, it would be required to get the Certificado de Delitos. And then you would also need a national level criminal background check from your home country. It needs to be legalized and apostilled, or one of the options. It needs to be properly legalized. So if your country is under the apostille of the Hague Convention, that legalization would be the apostille. Okay, and then the background check with the apostille needs to be translated to Spanish. Again, some countries might have a specific working with children or child protection background check, and as long as it's at a national level, it would meet this requirement. One thing to keep in mind, so if you are a U.S. citizen, you must present an apostilled FBI background check with the Spanish translation. Okay. State background checks, unfortunately, do not meet the Spanish law requirements when it comes to child protection, because it does need to be at a national level. So, for example, if you are applying for a new long-term student visa and your consulate requires, they might require the FBI background check, so that's great. You're going to need to present it for your visa application and then also present us with a copy as well. If, for example, your consulate just accepts a state background check, you can also you can do your visa application with the state background check, but keep in mind that you will also need to get an apostilled FBI background check and Spanish translation for the program. So we have to have this legally, we have to have it on file for you if you are a US citizen. Okay. And now for those students that are already, residing in Spain, and maybe you already have a background check from previous years, we can accept this already existing, this pre-existing background check as long as it meets the following criteria. So Spain has been your primary residence since that background check was obtained. So you haven't left the country for more than just, holidays. And it must be a national level criminal background check from your home country, legalized, apostilled, and translated to Spanish. So it needs to meet our requirements. So again, in the case of, for example, a student who has been here with the Ministry of Education, and you are applying to the BEDA program for the first time, if you have on file an apostilled FBI background check with Spanish translation from the first time that you came to Spain, that's great. We would be able to accept that for our records. However, if what you presented back in the day was just a state background check, then you would need to process a new apostilled FBI background check. Okay. All right. And I think with that, we have covered everything. So thank you so much for your attention, for listening today to all of this intricate, detailed information. It can be complicated sometimes, but we are definitely here to help you along the way. And so if there's any doubts, anything wasn't clear in this video, any particular case that you would like to consult us on, definitely reach out to us via email, and we look forward to receiving your application and being in contact. All right. Thank you very much.